Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again, as always, to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today for day 30 of the UK lockdown, the big 3-0. Quite a milestone today. We've had 30 days of living under lockdown, where our lives have basically been restricted. Freedom of movement, freedom to do what we want, has been restricted for 30 whole days, or will be by the end of today. Anyway, folks, I'm currently out and about taking my daily exercise as always, and I'm bringing you guys along for the ride. It's about 7 o'clock this morning as I'm making this video. The sun is shining once again, and there's still a little bit of a chill in the air, but I've not needed my jacket this morning. I've just simply got a very thin jumper on. Apologies for the odd shadows that will fall across this video as I'm making it. The sun is very low in the sky at this time of year. That's why I'll go very bright 1 minute and very dark the next, like I have done. So I may have to swing the camera around a bit just to refocus. Now, big thank you to everybody who left comments on yesterday's video. I did manage to get it up at the normal time simply by going through that convoluted and heavy workaround that I've explained to people. I have realised I have lost a slight bit of quality on the videos due to doing that, so today I'm going to try and go back to what I was doing, which was creating the video in Windows Movie Maker, putting it through a little editing program called Handbrake, and we'll see how long it takes for it to upload. I don't like losing quality, but there you go. Now, there's something I'm going to show you at the end of this particular video. It has a very nice little message on it. It's a little something that somebody's put in, and I'll just check as it's still here. Yes, it is, and I'll show it at the end, because as I say, it's a very good message to end a video on. Anyway, folks, on to today's video, and probably many of you by now will have seen the news that Matt Hancock has announced yesterday that the UK will begin human trials on a vaccine for COVID-19. And should it work, it will mean that the UK are the leaders in having a vaccine, you know. Basically, without stating it, without stating the obvious, Britain will have so much clout throughout the world with having this. You know, I think those who are more Machiavellian will be thinking it'll help in Brexit negotiations. After all, Europe will probably give us what we want. I'll just let this person with a dog past. No problem. But once again, it brings up the old question that one or two of you have asked me throughout these series of videos regarding mandatory vaccinations. I've had many people say, what do you think about mandatory vaccinations, Mr H? Well, I'll be honest with you, Hot Potters. There's no such thing as a mandatory vaccination, you know. How are they going to force this on people, for want of a better phrase? You know, are you going to see, you know, vaccination squads going round, banging on people's doors, nurses armed with a big hypodermic needle, you know, or, you know, people being dragged off to some vaccination centre? That's not going to happen. Let's be honest how they would introduce a vaccination. They'd introduce it like they introduce every other vaccination, by simply making a big media campaign. You know, at every turn you would see that there is now a cure or a vaccination for COVID-19, and it would be spread across television, radio, be up in bus shelters, things like that. And they know that the majority of the public will go and volunteer. Probably a good 75%, even more, would go, contact the GP and get the vaccination. What they will then do is look at the uptake. They'll notice that there's been an amount of people who haven't had a vaccination for whatever reason. Then their GPs would write to them, and here's where it'll probably get a bit murky, because anybody who's over the age of 40 will have probably had a letter, especially if you live in England. I don't know about Wales, but especially if you live in England, from NHS England, inviting you inviting you to go to what is known as a health check. You've probably already had that letter. I had one when I turned 45. They missed me on my 40th birthday for some reason. But in the letter, it basically stated you would go, have an appointment, they would check your blood pressure, check your weight, check your heart, all that kind of good stuff, ask you some questions about your lifestyle and your family history, medical history, and from that they would be able to determine your likelihood of being susceptible to certain diseases, heart disease, etc. Now, in the letter, it never stated that if you didn't want to turn up to this thing, you didn't need to. They just put it there that they was inviting you to contact them. And I think that's how they do it with the vaccination. The letter would be very TV licensing threatogram-esque style, just putting it to you that you need to contact your GP. If you want to be even more murky, they may even make it that way where they create an appointment for you, a bit like the utility companies have done with the smart meters, certain utility companies. We've made this appointment for you at this time, on this date. If it's not convenient, please contact us to rearrange. They may go down that road. And that's how they'll do it. Now, for people who still hold out and still don't have it, for whatever the reason be, what they may find is certain doors are closed to them. As I've said in previous vlogs, you may not be able to go out and travel to certain countries if you haven't had your COVID-19 vaccination or whatever they choose to call it. I think that's where it might go. And we're already seeing this. I mean, anybody who's a Disney fan and follows what's happening in the Disney parks, Disney Shanghai have made it that way. They've reopened their park, and if there's something with a QR code, you have to answer some questions, and if you have a green QR code, you're allowed into the park. If you have a yellow or a red QR code, you're not allowed in. It'll probably go that way if you haven't had your vaccination. It would, big red flag, we don't want you in the country. So that might be the way that they'll introduce a vaccination. You know, they're not going to force it on people. Basically, two burly men holding you down and a nurse with an hypodermic needle sticking it up your backside. You know, probably some men would pay for that in certain establishments, but it's not going to happen. I don't think that's how they'll do it personally. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say that I'm not for vaccinations one way or another. I'm not trying to tell you what you should do. At the end of the day, when a vaccination does become available to the UK public, it's up to each and every one of you to make that decision whether you go for it or you don't. I'm just stating what my thoughts are on these that are turning round and saying it will be a mandatory vaccination. There's no such thing as a mandatory vaccination. Not in my book, anyway. Now, on a lighter note, and I'm going to wind this video up on this note, one of the things that I found that's not been a bit available, and it's a bizarre thing, is barbers. You know, my son, Toby James, who was getting a little bit long, and yesterday I had to cut it. Now, don't worry, don't panic, Hot Potters. I haven't given him a Mr. H haircut, you know, the old slaphead haircut. I just gave him a little bit of a trim, and I've done a pretty decent job to say, as I'm not an hairdresser or a barber. But it just shows you the little things that you miss and you don't realise you need until you need them. Anyway, folks, we are slowly winding up to 10 minutes with this video, so I'm going to wind this one up. Please leave your comments, as always, what you think regarding mandatory vaccinations. Do you think that, like me, there's no such thing as a mandatory vaccination, or do you think that they will probably introduce it the way that I've said? I'll leave it there, folks, and I'll leave you with this little feel-good message that somebody's put on a little pebble just on this walk that I do each and every day. I don't think they've put it here for me. I think it's just for anybody who goes on the walk, but it's a very good message nonetheless. So, folks, until the next time, when it'll be day 31 of the UK lockdown, I'll bid you a fond farewell as always. Stay safe, and bye-bye for now.